Ladies and gentlemen, I got it before he went to bed. My friend, our friend, the number one guy for 40 days and nights of Whales Certified, Terry Minkler, ladies and gentlemen.
Kevin, quite the introduction. Humbled.
Well, you know, I mean, it was unique. I've never rehearsed it, and I don't, you know, it's there, it's right there.
Kevin, you know what? Let's see. Full disclosure, as you say.
Uh huh.
Would have rehearsed it, you would have forgot it anyway. You're too ad-lib, man. You could never rehearse it.
Oh man, I'm telling you, gosh. Yeah, but so there it is, man. You know, you got the year of the horse, of the fire horse, and then you got, you know, you could almost smell that soccer coming around, spring soccer, and then you got the thrill of 40 days and 40 nights of Whales Certified.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. You put a promo out on Facebook about that.
Yeah. And you, as well as most things, you lead the way, bro.
So are you calling this the Lenten Special?
Oh, I didn't think of that. That could be something. We'll work on that. But yeah, man, something along that line.
There you go.
Gosh. That could be it. That could be the Lenten Special, the Whale Lenten Special. Yeah. Well, the overall thing is to start out. You asked me what to do. I said potpourri. I said hodgepodge. Is that we'll talk about, you know, some of the sponsors that I have that you know that I know that you have, that I have that you know of them. And it was like you were the introduction. Without you, I don't know. So anyway, it comes out is a little bit of that, and then a little bit of the season 2 of the St. Louis High School Girls Champions League.
That's wondering.
Yeah, and what'd you say?
It's right around the corner.
Oh, I mean,
listen, I know this is a broadcast, but if you were writing the transcript for this, and you said this is a potpourri, could you spell that? Is that a word you could spell, potpourri? Could you spell that word? Hodgepodge? These are some big words. Good thing you're not doing a written article.
Oh, well, it is an option. I've never taken it, you know. Oh, my gosh.
Some of these podcasts, you can get a written transcript from them, too. So
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see your version of how you spell potpourri. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I possibly could have my own personal AI.
There you go. Anything's possible. Anybody can get anything they want these days because of the cheating system that's available through AI. Anything's out there.
All right.
I mean, I don't know why you need anything, but all you gotta do is type in whatever you want to know, and you'll find it out.
Yeah, yeah. I tell you, I'm still a fan of Wikipedia and about the word of mouth. You know, it's so good when, you know, not to blow smoke up, but to say like yourself, to listen to your stories that you find interesting and that you were there or you done the research to know like you were there. And it's a beautiful story.
I think that I don't know for sure that what I'm going to say is true. It just seems like it's true. It seems to be more prevalent with older aged people that have more of a lifetime of experiences, and maybe just value them because most of them relate to times that were in the past, where living and life was quite a bit different. I'm just wondering if the modern era of people, have the same kind of interest and degree of memories and can keep them and relate them and make stories out of them. I'm just curious.
Yeah. I have a handful of young, mature student athletes and some scholar champions, and I'm going to ask them about that. Yeah. But I have found that the men and women that I have interviewed here at Whales Certified and who has attained the certification thereof is they're outstanding people in any era you want to put them in.
You know what? You haven't missed the boat on any of your guests, boy. You've been top of the line, top shelf, spot on. You get some winners.
Well, thanks. But so that I know that you know where I came from was from a kitchen table in Thrush and Lillian in Walnut Park. And the situation is that hearing the stories that my father, my brother's friends, hearing the stories, my mother, hearing the stories, I said, man, wow. And there were stories of like 30 years ago, 40, And I almost got killed because in the 70s, I tried going down on Grant in Washington to see the situation. And they went, they were bumming there when everything was on the up and up. But my gosh, man, Garibaldi's little restaurant, you had to walk up the stairs and you would have to, two people couldn't walk up and down. One would have to, excuse me, and then, and now that Grand Washington, they call it the intersection of life and art because of the churches that are there and because of the theater. That was where the theater district was at. Yeah, and so all that, so I'm talking stories, and every once in a while a buddy of mine says, hey, man, how that happened around 25 years ago? I said, just like it was yesterday.
But you know what? As you're talking about this, my mind's kind of racing through getting into the high category. Why is it that that's so prevalent that so many of the stories come from older people as opposed to the younger people? And I think it's because the older people, like us, when we grew up, we didn't have everything that the people have today. We have 3 channels on the TV. Didn't have cell phones, didn't have internet, didn't have any of this stuff that today occupies everybody's time. So our time was spent experiencing things.
Yeah.
And those experiences, gave us memories and stories. Today, I think everybody's tied up so much with the conveniences of, internet and anything you want to watch on TV is available for you, and anything you want to know is at your disposal online. It's just so much of a different world today world of convenience and expansive information that's available. So I think back in the day, we lived life differently because we had to. We didn't have any other option. But in doing that, I think that's where we gained a whole lot of our stories that we tell because we lived them.
Well, those campfire stories of the headless hitchhiker. Holy, my God. Tell us that story again, Jack. Tell that story again, will you? Oh, man. Yeah. So here we are. We're coming up to spring, and I have found that this high school experience is not to be overlooked. That playing multiple sports, I've seen several college champions who have played multiple sports in college, and high schoolers, and they have it going on, man. They're not weaklings. They're not weak links on either or. I mean, they're high competitors on both sides of their sports. And a buddy of mine, he's like a 3 or 4 guy. I mean, you talk about a leather sweater with this guy. He's got a front and back. Yeah. And then the story about having just a thrill when the stories get told about this high school champions league, whether down in Florida, anywhere, St. Louis, anywhere else, it gets goosebumps for people to say, hey, let's do this thing.
Yeah, I think it's we're on the verge of the thing catching on fire and taking off. The groundwork's been laid with Florida for sure, with Jim Hart and Dave Wilson and company, Perry Vanderbeck, and the people down in Tampa that got it going. And then South Florida picked it up, and Polk County picked it up, and St. Louis picked it up, and I think I know that Jim Hart and me and myself to his lesser degree been involved with a good number of different communities that wanted information about it because they were interested. And I think there's some of them that'll be coming on board for next fall.
Wow, man. And that ain't far away.
No.
So there you have it. You have what it was. And when you talk about the original Champions League, I mean, you're talking about, all right, bring the world. And you only get the best of the world. And, you might get a club once in a while that comes in and does it, but it is the traditional powerhouses of the art and science of soccer that win these Champions League. Hence, Real Madrid. I mean, they have almost like they have their own trophy. They won it so many times.
Yeah. Well, you're 100% right because, as long as soccer's been around and as far as it's been spread across the country and the world, there's been all kinds of tournaments that have come up and for different reasons in different areas with different significance. But none of them really have any common denominator. But when you say Champions League, that's the common denominator. Because anybody, anywhere that's involved with soccer can relate to Champions League.
Yeah.
The weaknesses about it is that it's known worldwide, and it's known for what it represents. It represents the best level of competition to determine the best team at the end of it. So when you get under that umbrella, it's a whole different deal than it is with other local tournaments. There's a lot of prestige involved when you start talking about Champions League. So, and I think the important thing for us is we're doing this and trying to get people interested in doing it with us, is that we honor the significance and the importance and the pageantry that goes along with it. That it's different. We want to make it different. It has to be different because it's special.
Yeah.
And when you start cutting corners and don't do this and don't do that, then you're minimizing its significance and importance, and you're devaluing it. So we're going to try this year in St. Louis to have what we call site managers. And Kevin, you volunteered to be one of those.
Yeah.
These are people that would be on the site of the games, and hopefully we'll have in pool play. We'll start having more double headers so that one person can go to a site and monitor 2 games. But that site manager's responsibility would be to introduce himself to the local people and the host school and make sure that everything, all the protocol is in place and followed, and that it's a true representation of what the Champions League competition is all about.
Nice.
And, I think that's necessary because, and rightfully so. I'm not putting anybody under the bus here, but when we have a host school and we say, okay, you're hosting these games for the Champions League, very few people in that school, maybe except for the coach, would have any idea what Champions League is. For them, it's just they got to show up and work a couple games, and it's called a tournament.
Yeah.
So to maintain its integrity, though, and that's the important thing, is to maintain the integrity. We've got to have people from our group that understands the significance of it and make sure that it's honored and that protocol is followed from start to finish. Yeah.
That's a real word, honored, that you put honor, duty, honor, and country, and then you honor something and you're honored by. That this thing, if you want to be the best, man, get out here and beat the best.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. And if anybody wants to say anything about it, you say, well, obviously, you're whistling in the dark, Sally, because we just beat you.
And Kevin, I don't know the word for it right now, but the motivation to do this is that there's a group of us that are pushing to get this thing on a national level and to have a national high school Champions League. And it wouldn't be that it would be a competitive tournament, meaning it wouldn't be a national champion at the end of it, but it would be a tournament that every school in the country would have an opportunity to participate in.
Wow.
And they would all abide by the same concept. So it would be similar from coast to coast in concept, but it wouldn't be a competitive thing where we'd end up a champion. Everybody could be a champion in their area, but everybody's going to follow the concept of it.
Right.
And it's tremendous that we can pull this off and gradually build it to where we have the momentum of everybody. The next person up wants to do it because everybody else is doing it and they don't want to be left out.
Yeah, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Here at Whales Certified, you're at the pulse. You're at the voice of St. Louis High School Champions League, as well as there's only one pretzel in this town that's Whales Certified, and that's the guys that Terry, Gus's Pretzels.
All right, always have been.
Yes.
It's always been Gus's. It's always been Gus's.
Yeah, always. And, there it is. And so there it is. And shout out to Willie Bush, Guy Bush's wife. Willie was from down and around the Soulard area and so forth. And she, misses the Gus's. So big shout out to Willie. Yeah. What an athlete! What a couple! Did you ever on the pitch came up or on the football field? Was that with Guy Bush?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. He was a little bit older. I knew of him. Everybody knew of him for sure. His reputation, was out there for everybody to know. But no, we did not compete.
Uh-huh. Okay, so there the guy. Now we go into, we got this high school thing that, and there's a couple St. Louisans that are under the U18, U17, 16 that they're starting to get on that roster. And the story goes is that about U.S. soccer, that's United States soccer, it's coming up to the, whatchamacallit, the World Cup, and everybody but St. Louis has got a site or a game of all, and you started the NASL with the Kansas City Spurs that won that, yeah, and they're a big soccer powerhouse in the nation. So I'm wondering, man, I gotta, because that's why we got it. We got you on tape, bro. Obviously, you give her permission to promote, to publish it, but step on outside. What's your thoughts on all that you have lived and seen, and now it's right here coming?
Well, we hosted in 1994 also.
Oh, absolutely, I know.
I think, pretty sure about this, I think we still hold the attendance record for World Cups from that tournament. I think we set the record.
Yeah, at the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, and it was after that MLS started. That was kind of one of the reasons why U.S. soccer, the FIFA, the world of soccer, granted the U.S. To host the World Cup in '94 was to stimulate a professional league in the U.S. So, that went hand in hand. So from 94 till 26, that's 32 years now. So that's 8 World Cups in between. So, where are we at now in terms of level of soccer? Well, we've improved a lot, for sure. Our professional league now is, I think it's 30 teams, right at 30 teams. So the question, I guess, is if the 94 World Cup stimulated the MLS, what does the 26 World Cup, what's it going to stimulate? What can we look forward to as a result of hosting this tournament? I don't know the answer. That's a question that's out there. Somebody else might have an answer for it. I don't know. But 94 was to get a professional league started. We got that going. I heard Kevin some time ago, and I didn't hear any follow-up on it, but this might be a spin-off to it, was that the U.S. was being considered to host some Champions League games, or some European Champions League games.
Yeah.
Huge. That would really, yeah.
That's my understanding. And then it's crickets.
I think maybe, and this is just me talking now, but when you watch the European games, whether you're on TV or if you're fortunate to ever get to those games, the supporters for the teams, if they're league teams or national teams, is off the charts. And it's 100% legitimate and passionate. And usually it's generational. It goes way back. There's never a question about who you're supporting, because it's who has your family supported for all these years, Wherever you live is where you support. And some of the cities and countries, have split teams, like Manchester, for instance. You got United in red and City in blue. And Liverpool, you got Liverpool in red and Everton in blue.
Yeah.
Those are very divided support groups and very, very passionate. So, on game days, make sure you're in the right part of town wearing the right color. That's for sure. Italy, same way. You got Roma and Lazio in Rome. These rivalries are incredibly intense. We don't really see that. Our rivalries are still pretty social. And I'm not saying I want to see them get intense and get stupid like some of them are around the world, but I think we could have a more educated, passionate following of supporters and build the game that way.
Wow.
Here's something else. I don't know how this relates, but with the Winter Olympics going on right now, there's a lot of interest and attention given to Norway because Norway's leading the pack in medals, total medals and gold medals for the World Cup. So they did a feature. I just watched a feature on Norway, and the feature was focusing on what is it about Norway that can produce this level of quality consistently, sustain it over time. World Cup after World Cup in the wind. Olympics after Olympics in the World Cup. Norway is always at the top, on top or at the top. And the feature said, here's our key. We engage young kids, 2, 3, 4 years old, in sport just for the joy of participation in sport. They said, we do not allow any keeping of records or standings or win-loss columns or anything else until kids are 13 years old. If you do, you're in trouble. If your league or your team or whatever doesn't manage to do that, watch out. You will be told about it and maybe suffer some kind of a punishment. They believe in giving everybody the experience of as much activity that they want with no pressure to perform in any certain way, just to experience the joy. They use the word joy a lot, the joy of being outdoors and doing something active and being athletic and being in a group, making it sociable. And then as time goes on, start to sort out those that show a little bit more than others and those that have a little bit more ambition than others, but not until about age 13. And they show these little kids in skis and ski jumping and all the stuff, all the winter activities. They start them young, and they do it in mass. It looks like a mob scene with all these little kids doing this stuff. But it's not pressure. It's like I said, it's for the joy of being actively involved in an activity in a social setting. And I think we could learn a lot from that because we take the same kids and start putting them under pressure right away, and we don't concentrate so much on the joy and the participation as we do the of who's the best right away, instead of letting them understand and appreciate what they're doing and having fun doing it. I was really impressed when I saw this piece on Norway.
Well, our schoolyard used to have all the kids in the neighborhood come up to the schoolyard in the summer. We get there around 8 o'clock, because of the sun, man. You couldn't be out there on asphalt.
Yeah.
And you would, do the somebody a bat or a stick, and you'd hand over hand who's going to pick first.
Yeah, right.
And then, I was always, I don't wonder if he's going to be the last one or me. I don't know. And it was just an enjoyment of that day because, you had the week, and depending on the weather and stuff, you said, okay, I could possibly, this would be the only game this week, or we could, and there was always tomorrow, there was no finality about it, and it just was off the charts.
Yeah.
And even when somehow, I don't know how they did it, but somehow really a lot of the good players were all on one team, that there was always a Mickey Mouse on the other team that just had a game of their life right then and there, and they would, just close the door, Sally, and and they, it was almost like you walk home, on the shoulders of your friends. Yeah.
Heroes welcome, huh?
Yeah, man. And so that really means something. Is that, I mean, how many times have we heard, ladies and gentlemen, I was the Bantam city champion. But I was their crusader. And then, hey, parochial, whoa, what a little league that was. Yeah, and so, all that really is something, but just the pure enjoyment of playing. And then, you in the St. Louis style, you kind of like the ice melts away, that you have understanding of a particular sport of soccer.
Yeah. I posted on Facebook. I copied this article that I saw and I posted it on Facebook. So if any of the listeners want to follow up a little bit and see a little bit more about it. And that's another point that they made too in the article, that they don't do any specialization early on in their sporting over there. Everybody participates in everything, so they have a taste of it. And then they, as they grow older, they can choose what they want to do. But they all start out doing mostly a little bit of everything. No specialization. That was another point.
So do you have the inside story of how Dave Berwyn got to be such a powerful, knowledgeable coach?
Something similar to that anyway. And his answer was probably about just what I would have expected somebody to say, is that he sought out the people that were the best known in the field and studied them.
Wow.
And beyond. But, he put in a whole lot of time focusing on people that were doing it right and having success with it and how they were doing it. And, this thing about success in soccer in particular, and those that achieve it will always tell you that. It's two things. It's having enjoyment and fun doing it, and keeping it simple. Keeping it simple. How many times have you heard people say soccer's a simple game, but then everything they say about it is confusing and complicated? So, it's keep it simple, but you got to have a little inner drive and a little ambition along with that. But the fun and the enjoyment has to be what keeps you going back, I just saw something today on Facebook. A coach was talking about to a group of coaches, like a seminar or clinic or something, and he was talking about coaching demeanor, how coaches act. And they said, if you want your players to perform for you and you're yelling at them all the time, are you going to build fear in them, or are you going to build acceptance in them? Are they going to accept you yelling at them all the time, or are they going to be fearful of you yelling at them all the time? And if they're afraid to do something and it don't work out, and they anticipate you're going to yell at them, well, then you know what they're going to do? They're not going to do it. They're not going to try anything. They're going to play so they don't get yelled at. And in doing that, then they suppress whatever creativity and potential they might have had, because they don't want to be on the wrong side of the coach. And the flip side of that was when you're constantly promoting the good things, and the players underneath you are enjoying what they're doing, they'll want to get better for themselves, but they'll want to get better to kind of say thank you for giving me a chance to do this without the fear of making a mistake and getting yelled at. Wow. I thought that was pretty impressive. Makes a lot of sense, but if you get a group of coaches together and said, raise your hand if you get carried away sometimes even maybe not willingly, but you get carried away because of the moment or the environment or whatever it is, and you go off on a tangent and you yell and scream and carry on. I bet you'd be a whole lot of hands that would be raised, as opposed to and if you keep calm, stay calm, cool, and collected under all those circumstances, and just keep trying to find ways to make it better instead of yelling all the time. Yeah, so there's a lot of things we can improve on for sure.
Right on. Well, I'm trying to get to the next level to have better equipment, but until then, please try not to tap so much on your table in front of you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all part of talent, and I want you to be the best podcast interview in the world.
Yeah, I know. I was tapping my phone, and I guess just the nervous reaction is tapping my phone.
There you go, baby, huh? You a little nervous around the whale.
Good pickup on that one.
Yeah.
Pickup whales.
Well, after 450 plus episodes, you said, so here it goes. We all know the guys, we've lived it, where they had, World Cup teams in the late 60s and the 50 and that and the Olympic teams, and like you said, gosh, you play, and then for a couple weeks they say, okay, put the United States of America shirt on and have at it. If you could have that wand, the magic wand, not Johnny, is that you have it here. Would you put that play, like the world, you play club and then you go to, they go. How would you do the World Cup team? You say, hey, this is how this is the qualifying. These are the cats over here. Give us a sense of you being the lead.
Wow, what a monumental task that would be, right? First of all, I think you got to do it in progression, in stages. First of all, you got to have a theme about how you want to play. You got to have a playing philosophy. What's your style of play going to be now? Are you going to, as a coach, every coach has a way to play that they're more comfortable with, or do you say, well, let me see what players I can get and how they best play. But when you have, like our country, we have 330-some million people in the country. It's not like you're picking between 3 million people and 333 million, So I think you can pretty much say, listen, here's my style. Here's how I want to play. I got to go find the players that can play that way. Then you need a network of scouting, because then you got to start identifying the players. First, you got to have a plan, right? You got to have a concrete plan, a vision, how you want it to look. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, and you put your team on the field, how do you want it to play? What do you want it to look like? Okay, now, who are the players that you can put on the field to play like that? There may be better players, but they may not be able to play the way you want them to play. And I've always, for all the years I've been coaching, I've always considered when you do team building, it's like putting together a puzzle. And every piece of the puzzle is different in shape, form, maybe color or whatever. But every piece has to fit in. When you're putting a puzzle together and somebody slips a couple of other pieces from a different puzzle in your mix, and you start trying to find ways to put those in, they don't fit. So, by having all the pieces I mean a plan and then the people and a program, you put it then you start putting it all together. So your puzzle, at the end of the day, and I have an easy little puzzle that I use. The end result is the puzzle is a series of different colored soccer balls. And the breakdown is every piece is a different color, different shape, but when they all come together, you have a series of different soccer balls that represent the puzzle. So, it would be an extensive project to do, but you'd have to have the next element is you have to have the support of the governing body, the organization, U.S. Soccer, for instance, right? And to do that, you'd have to have a sufficient staff and sufficient financial resources to be able to cover all the bases that you need to. It's a big country, and every part of different parts of the country have a different style of play, mostly because of climate. When you're in California and Florida versus the East Coast or the north up in Minnesota, the weather dictates how you play. In California and Florida, where it's hot, you're probably going to play more of a slow down possession type of game where you're not going to be running endlessly at high level intensity the whole time. You will when you need to, but that's not going to be the standard way you play. When you're playing in the north and the east, where the weather is different, and you have cold, freezing cold, snow, all those conditions, you're more likely to do more running just to stay warm. Plus, the environment isn't necessarily as conducive as it is to play a slow-paced game. So it's just, and then the other aspect of that too is what's the ethnicity population in the different areas, because the ethnicities also have different ways of playing. So, given all that, I mean, it's a very complicated situation, but if you know what you want to do, okay, soccer is simple in terms of there's 11 players on the field, right? Of those 11 players, how many different positions are there? Well, some people would say, you got a goalie, you got the backs, you got the midfielders, you got the forwards. You got 4 different types of players. False, wrong. You got a goalie, that's one. But your backs, so whether you play 3, 4, or 5 backs, you got center backs and you got outside backs. Those are 2 different positions completely. So that's 2 plus 1 is the goalie is 3. In the midfield, whether you play 3 or 4 or 5, you've got wide midfielders, you've got attacking midfielders, you've got defensive midfielders, you've got holding midfielders. Attacking, defending, holding, wide, that's 4 players there. So you've got 2 defenders and a goalie, that's 3. 4 in the midfield, that becomes 7. And then you've got your forwards, which you could play 2 or 3, or maybe even in the old days we played 4. But how do you play those? How many different roles are there for those players, okay? So you might have, let's say you just have 2 different roles. So you've got 9 different roles out of 11 positions. So that means you don't have 11 of the same kind of players. A great example was the 1994 World Cup with Michael Sorber. Michael Sorber was a wonderful player who was in the right place at the right time under the right eyes of Bora Milutinovic. Michael was Bora's player. Michael played the number 6, the defensive midfield role, and he played it exactly the way Bora had in mind for that position to be played. Okay, so when he saw that, he goes, "That's what I need. Michael's what I need for that position." And it was simple. It's cut and dried. So when you have an idea of how you want to play, and you have this puzzle, and each piece is different, and I'm looking to fill this piece with this kind of a player, then you go find that player. As opposed to getting all the best players and saying, okay, now how can I get these players to be best? I went to a convention years ago, 2002, in Baltimore, and it was NSCA, National Soccer Coaches Association, and I listened to a talk from the Brazilian coach, a Brazilian person at the time, wasn't a coach, but he was in the organization. He said, we could have the best midfield in the world, and he named off a bunch of players that everybody would say, oh yeah, for sure. They would be the best players that we could put in the midfield. But he said, here's the deal. as good as those players were and how everybody knew how good they were, those players playing together would not produce the best midfield that we could have because they were all the same kind of players. They needed that difference and that balance of somebody to be a defensive player, an attacking player, a holding player, a wide player. Every one of those has different responsibilities and playing responsibilities, and they have to all play their role and come together. Then you get the whole is more than the sum of its parts. So I thought that was really, really interesting. That was a telltale moment to have somebody at that level make that statement. So if you go picking all the best players, they might not fit the system. Was Michael Sorber one of the best players back in the day that everybody would have said hands down? Yeah, you got to get Michael Sorber for sure for this team. Probably not. But in terms of the position he played and the way that the coach wanted it played, Michael Sorber was the absolute best person for that position. So good for both, good for the player, good for the coach. And it worked out. I mean, he played brilliantly. And he was the answer. They didn't look any further, you know. So that's how I would go about it. Take all those elements, you know, together and put it together and come up with a final solution. But you have to have a lot of cooperation. You know, like I said, you got to have support financially and staffing, and you got to have a plan. You got to go find the players. You know, you got to put it together, make it work.
Wow. Well, there you go. I mean, we're having loads of fun, but there's only so much listening that a person can take. I mean, you have given us food for thought, and this is only the first of 40. I got 40 more episodes. So if somebody only goes 10 minutes, hey, it's not a reflection on themselves or nothing, you know, but man, but holy cow, you really got it going on here, Terry. You gave us really what we needed. And that's why Whales Certified is always in your debt. And at any time, if you really need a car, Charlie Clark's Choice Cars, he'll give you the first 100 gallons of gasoline for free. If you, yeah. But yeah.
How about if you would like be hungry for some Italian soul food? Where would you go for that?
Ooh, it's only one place in this town. And everybody wants to, hey, don't tell everybody you won't get a table. But it is Pino's Southern Italian soul food from Pepe. Yeah, you know the owner, Pepe Klein.
Pepe Kim.
Kim, yeah. And just a dynamic, food. I tell you, you get I never had whale meat, you know, and I never thought I would like octopus. But I'll take octopus all day, every day.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, really something. And then he's got the Godfather chocolate cake. I mean, you know, you can't say no to this thing, you know. I mean, it's such a beautiful cake. But everything at Pino's, whatever day you go, whatever season you go, you're going to get the finest of, I believe I'm pronouncing it correctly, Calabria.
Huh? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Calabria. Calabria.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Their way, you know, that you have, it's between heaven and earth, you know, that you bring your friends or you want to make friends, you bring them to Pino's Italian soul food.
Now, you know, it wasn't too long ago that Pepe went over there. It was over there firsthand getting information. Yeah.
The guy's nothing but the best. I really appreciate him.
He's an incredible professional in this field, no doubt about it.
Yeah. So, Terry, I want to thank you for making, this, you lead the way, man, of how to do 40 days and 40 nights, Whales Certified. And I'm looking forward to touching base with you to cross the T's and dot the I's about this St. Louis High School Girls Champions League.
Cool.
Yeah. So there we go, all right? And
all right.
What's a custom here at Whales Certified to say, hey, Terry, whatever you want to say to who you ever want to say it to for as long as you want to say it for.
Well, I wish you the best in getting through your Listening for Lent program. 40 days is quite a challenge to try to muster, but anybody can do it. You can do it, Kevin. I know that. So, I mean, what do you say? You're over 400 now on your guest list?
Yeah, 450 plus. Yeah, it's over 450. We'll go up to the 500th.
By the time the Lent is over with, you'll have knocking on the door of 500.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
Wow, you've had some good ones too. So, remember back to episode number 1, it was like, where's this going? Wow, well, it went
yeah.
400 and something, that's where it went. Good job, congratulations, well done.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for having me on, appreciate it.
Right on. All right, then. So you're Whales Certified Hall of Affinity, and people can be Whales Certified if they would only try. Okay, then. So long.
All right, Kevin. Thanks. Take care. Bye.